Gather close, listener, and let the shadows draw near. In the forgotten corners of the world, where the air grows thick with dread and the walls whisper secrets, there are places no light can touch. Places where the past festers, where things that should not be stir in the dark. Tonight we descend into one such place, a decaying textile mill in Gates Falls, Maine, where the summer of 1973 burned hotter than the devil's own forge. This is a tale of a man named Ray Hall, a drifter who thought he'd seen it all, until he peered into the black heart of the mill and found what lurked below. Brace yourself, for this is no mere story. This is a warning. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed. In Gates Falls, Maine, the summer of '73 burned hotter than hell itself. The old textile mill loomed like a rotting giant, its belly hiding secrets no man should ever uncover. For Ray Hall, a drifter with a restless soul, it was just another job. But down in the dark, beneath the mill's decaying heart, something was waiting. Something hungry. Hall worked the graveyard shift, 11 to 7, when the mill's pulse was slow and the air thick with heat. A loner, a college dropout who drifted from Berkeley to Miami, he landed here to run the picker machine for $1.78 an hour. It wasn't the work that got to him. It was the rats. Fat, lice-ridden beasts with eyes like black marbles, watching from the shadows of the third floor. Hall kept a stash of soda cans to peg at them, a grim game to pass the time. But that night, trouble came in the form of Warwick, the foreman, a beefy man with a crew cut and a sneer that could curdle blood. Warwick wasn't supposed to be on 3 during the graveyard shift. He was meant to stay in his basement office, sipping coffee. But there he was, catching Hall mid-throw. "What are you up to, Hall?" he barked, his voice cutting through the humid air. Hall muttered about the rats, but Warwick wasn't buying it. "We don't pay you to chuck cans, mister, not even if you pick them up." Hall shrugged, pointing out no orders had come in for 20 minutes. Warwick just stared, his eyes cold, then changed the subject. "Next week's 4th of July. Mills shut down. You want to work?" Hall raised an eyebrow. "Work during a layoff week?" "Doing what?" he asked. Warwick grinned, all teeth. "Cleaning the basement level. Nobody's touched it in 12 years. Hell of a mess. We're using hoses." Hall did the math. $2 an hour, double time on the 4th. $75 after taxes. Better than nothing. He nodded. "All right." Warwick clapped him on the shoulder too hard. "Okay, college boy, I'm keeping it in mind." Then he was gone, leaving Hall with the rats and a bad feeling in his gut. Monday night, 11 p.m., the crew gathered by the dye house. 36 men, weary and grim, listened as Warwick laid out the plan. The basement was a labyrinth of junk, old furniture, rotting cloth, busted machinery. They'd work in teams, hauling crap to the air shaft or blasting it with high-pressure hoses. Wisconsin, a fat, lazy Pole who'd latched onto Hall, whined about the mess. "Gonna be blacker at midnight in Persia," he moaned. Hall ignored him, watching Warwick's hard smile. Something about the foreman felt wrong, like a snake coiled in the dark. The basement was worse than Hall imagined. The air stank of river rot, mold, and something sweeter, like death left to ripen. The 60 light bulbs strung up barely pushed back the gloom, casting a sickly yellow glow over a graveyard of industrial decay. Wet walls dripped with moss, and the floor was a swamp of sludge. And the rats, God, the rats. Bigger than the ones upstairs, some as large as cats with sleek bodies and fearless eyes. They scurried through the muck, unafraid, their claws whispering secrets. Hall and Wisconsin were on the crap crew, hauling junk in electric wagons that stank of burnt wiring. Wisconsin complained non-stop, his voice a grating drone. Hall tuned him out, his mind on Warwick. The foreman prowled the shadows, barking orders, his eyes always finding Hall. Strange, Hall thought, watching a rat gnaw a canvas bag. They don't fear us. Not down here. At lunch, the men sat in silence, their hands black with grime no soap could touch. Charlie Brochu spoke up, his voice low. Ray Upson had to go home. Rat bit him. Hall's head snapped up. Is that so? Brochu nodded. Big as a cat, jumped out of a bag and chewed his hand. Took 3 hits with a board to kill it. The men shuddered. Warwick, eating cold burgers in his glass office, didn't seem to care. He clapped Hall's shoulder as they headed back. How's it going, college boy? Hall didn't answer. By Wednesday, the hoses were a relief. Hall worked the nozzle, blasting debris, while Wisconski managed the line. The rats were bolder now, biting 2 men who refused to work without rubber gloves. Carmichael, a bull-necked guy, screamed when a gray-streaked rat tore into his chest, hanging on like a demon. Hall hosed it off, smashing it against the wall. Warwick laughed, clapping Hall's back. Damn sight better than cans, huh? College boy. Hall didn't smile. The rats were too big, too many, and Warwick's grin hid something ugly. Thursday, 2 a.m., the pile by the air shaft was a mountain, but the job was nowhere near done. Hall and Wisconski worked near the north wall, far from the others. The light was dim, the air heavy. Haven't seen many rats tonight, Hall said, lighting a cigarette. Wisconski spat. Maybe they got wise. Then it came, a black shape flapping from the dark. Wisconski screamed, covering his head. A bat! Hall watched it vanish, his voice soft. A bat's just a rat with wings. Wisconski's eyes were wild. What's it doing down here? Hall didn't answer. He knelt, lit a match, and tapped the floor. A wooden square, disguised as cement. It's a support, he said. There's another level below. Wisconski's face twisted in revulsion. God, no. But Hall's mind raced. The rats, the bats, they weren't hiding in the walls. They were coming from below. He called Warwick over, pointing at a trap door crusted with rust. Sub-cellar, he said. That's where your rats are breeding. Warwick's eyes narrowed. So what? The job's the basement. Hall smiled, cold. I checked the town zoning laws, Mr. Foreman. From 1911, before the mill owned the board. They're strict about vermin, rats, bats, you name it. I punch out. I go straight to the commissioner. This place'll be shut down for months. Warwick's face darkened, his hands curling into claws. Then he grinned, a predator's smile. You're rehired, college boy, and you're going down there. You and Wisconski. Wisconski protested, but Warwick's glare silenced him. And you, Hall said, pointing at Warwick. Management should be represented, don't you think? The men laughed, but Warwick's smile didn't waver. He nodded. Fine. Let's see what's down there. They grabbed flashlights, big 6-battery ones, and Wisconski clutched the hose like a lifeline. 2 men pulled the trapdoor open, revealing a black void. Beetles, huge and sightless, spilled out, crawling over the floor. The underside of the door was black with fungus, a broken lock bolted in place. Shouldn't be underneath, Warwick muttered. Hall smirked. Maybe to keep something in? From below came a sound, soft, expectant. The whisk of countless paws, the squeak of rats. Wisconski sobbed, but Hall laughed. Could be frogs, Warwick said unconvincingly. The stairs were sagging, wooden, leading to black stone below. Brochu tested them, ignoring Warwick's glare. They'll hold, he said. Hall went first, then Wisconski, then Warwick, their beams cutting through the slime. The sub-cellar was vast, longer than it should have been, the air thick with rot. Puddles soaked their boots, and the silence was deafening, broken only by dripping water. Hall's light caught a box, Elias Varney, 1841. Was the mill here then? He asked. Warwick shook his head. Not till 1897. Hall didn't press, but the dates gnawed at him. They moved deeper, the walls closing in. A concrete jut marked the mill's outer wall, but the cellar stretched on, unnatural. Warwick turned to leave, but Hall grabbed his neck. "Keep going, Mr. Foreman." Warwick's grin was brittle. "You're crazy, college boy." Hall didn't blink. "Move." They pressed on, and Hall saw them. Rats, thousands, rank on rank, their eyes gleaming. They didn't attack, just watched, herding them forward. Warwick froze. "They're all around us," Hall nodded. "Keep going." Bones appeared in the beam, a skull green with mold, then an ulna, a rib cage. Hall's heart pounded, a dark thrill rising. "You're breaking, Mr. Foreman," he thought. The rats grew larger, some 3 feet tall, blind and legless, dragging themselves with obscene hunger. Warwick's control cracked. "We can't go on," he pleaded. Hall smiled. "The rats have business with you." Warwick screamed as a rat ran over his foot, but Hall gestured with the hose. "Move!" They crested a rise, and Warwick's face went white. Spit dribbled down his chin. "Oh my God," he whispered. He turned to run, but Hall opened the hose, blasting him back. Warwick's scream echoed, swallowed by thrashing and a monstrous squeaking. Hall walked to the edge and looked down. There, in a gully, was the queen, a rat as big as a calf, gray and pulsating, eyeless, legless. It crouched over Warwick's remains, tearing at his arm. "Goodbye, Mr. Foreman," Hall said, his voice hollow. The hose weakened as rats gnawed through it. Hall turned, blasting the creatures back. They lunged, biting his legs, his thighs. A bat, huge, with a tail like a whip, smashed into his face, coiling around his neck. Hall battered it with the nozzle, screaming as it tore his shirt. Another bat ripped his scalp, and rats swarmed, biting his belly, his chest, one burrowing into his ear. His body grew numb, his laughter high and mad. He staggered, fell to his knees, the rats a flood over him. Back above, the men waited. Brochu spoke, hesitant. "Somebody better go down." Wisconski whimpered, refusing. Ipiston sneered. "Not you, Jelly Belly." Brogan grabbed a hose. "Me, Ipiston, Dangerfield, Nadeau. Stevenson, get more lights." Ipiston stared into the dark. "Maybe they stopped for a smoke," he said, voice thin. "A few rats, what the hell." The lights came and they descended, their beams swallowed by the black, unaware of the horror waiting below.